Good morning, everyone. Om Shanti. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the topic of Keepers of the Yagya. That word has been used so much, probably never more so than in the last couple of weeks. It was very nice now just listening to, I don't know if all of you know Brother Ken, but that was his voice that you were hearing. And I was thinking how Brother Ken's voice is the soundtrack, certainly, to my early days in Gyan, as I'm sure it has been for many of you too, and we never tire of it. So special thanks for that, Ken. So, I'm curious, who's here for the first time? Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Ken. Okay, right. How many are here for the first time? Do all of you know our three panelists? No. Who do not know our three panelists, either one or none of them? Okay. Well, you can take it for granted that these are bona fide keepers of the Yagya. And I think between them, they probably have an accumulated maybe 120 to 130 years in Gyan. So that's a pretty solid reference. And so instead of, you've certainly been seeing them around, you've been hearing Ken's voice. Miraben is so much more than the announcements. That's very often the only role that we see her in. I'm not sure how highly visible Pratibha Ben is, but you'll come to know them through the next hour and in relation to the topic of the Yagya. But what I wanted to do, rather than me giving you an accounting of when they came in Gyan and one thing and another, I'm going to ask them to introduce each other. And so, Pratibha Ben, could you give us a little insight into Miraben, more than just when she came to Baba or what she does or where she does it?
Om Shanti. It's interesting, when we work together, we don't realize when was the first time we met or what is the experience. But then when we're asked to introduce, it reverses the memory line. And I remember Brother Ken from the Mumbai conference. Is that right?
Me too. Yeah, 1976.
77,
yeah.
1976. So you can imagine it's not few years. But last 27 or 28 years we've been working together. And it has been a very interesting experience with Brother Ken.
Sister Mira.
Oh, sorry.
You're introducing Sister
Yes,
Mira.
Sister Mira, you see. Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll go back to Sister Mira then.
Yes.
All right, thanks. Sister Mira, similar. She might not remember, but I remember. In 1975, we were sharing a room. Of course, I was just in college that time. And we were 5 of us sharing the room, all my seniors.
Where?
In Pandav Bhavan, above Dadiji's room. And I was the youngest in that room. And so, of course, I was pampered, but I was also helping them a lot. So it was two-sided. And myself and Sister Mira has never ever worked together in any service field anywhere, but just meeting in Madhuban mostly. And it's a very interesting thing that Miraben is extremely punctual and very regular with her system and lifestyle. And it's a beautiful inspiration, but especially with her meditation. And she's very popular with her meditations, and that's very few in the Yagya has that popularity. We have popularity of courses and talks and service and a lot of things. But to be popular in tapasya and meditation is a special gift. And I take a lot of inspiration from her on this particular topic or subject. And I think she is one of those special souls in the Yagya who's done a lot of tapasya and inspires others a lot. She's been with Baba since 46 years. And she's traveled the world, she's shared this. But the main thing her sharing is on meditation, Baba's remembrance. That's what I remember. Mirabin, do you remember that we shared the room? No, you don't. Okay.
All right, so Mirabin, would you like to introduce Brother Ken?
She has a different introduction.
Om Shanti. I also remember, I was also in the same conference in 1976, but I came from Bangalore. I was invited in that conference as one of the speakers in one of the sessions, but there were very few double foreigners. But of course, Brother Ken was a totally different person at that time, 1976, very young. Yes, me too. Me too.
All were. Yeah.
But we did not have any
chickens.
personal meeting, but I remember seeing him very vaguely. But during the early days, a few double foreigners used to come, and during that time, no headphones. We used to sit in the history hall. The Murli used to be sometimes before the meditation hall was built. We used to sit in the history hall at the back and translate, like to whisper in the ears. I remember those days, a few double foreigners. It was very interesting. And then we started to go to the meditation hall, and they used to put the headphones on the floor, and we will sit in the front, listen to them, and then repeat. So it was, those days were very interesting. But I came to know Ken more when I went to Brazil for the first time. I don't remember which year I went. I have been to Brazil a few times. So that is when we were able to have more close interaction. And, from then onwards, we not only in Brazil, in different places, he has even come to Malaysia a few times, 2 times. So one of the specialities I find Brother Ken is very straightforward, very open, and always helping souls to progress in their life. And he is multi-talented. I think most of the Brahmin family knows. And I really admire his speciality, how he went from Australia, to Brazil. He was asked to go to Brazil, and he learned the language, a foreign language, and not only learned Portuguese and Spanish, but he wrote books in that language, and he mastered that language. And now he has written many, many books in foreign language, which is a great inspiration, So we cannot give an excuse that I cannot learn another language. It is possible. You should give him a big hand for that, And because of that, the service in South America, particularly in Brazil, has expanded so much. Without language, you cannot communicate. But another specialty of Brother Ken is also singing, because not just giving talks, explaining knowledge through words, but also through his voice. So there are many, many cassettes and CDs you can come across in our Brahmin family, which really takes souls. Particularly one song I like very much, the old song, like moths plunging into the flame, So it was.
That's right, yeah.
So he may sing that at the end of the session, maybe. So that's a beautiful song that takes souls beyond, very close to Baba. And of course, we have been working together very closely, especially in Madhuban season. Yeah, so there is a lot to say about him.
Yes.
But in essence, I would say that he is one of the really original jewels from country outside India.
Okay.
The pioneers in foreign service.
And of course, Meera herself and also for Pratibha Ben, they're all souls who have gone to foreign countries and learned other languages, etc. Not diminishing Ken's achievement. He also speaks Spanish fluently, but all of you did that too. Yeah. So, Ken, you're going to introduce Pratibha Ben.
She started actually by saying that, yes, we know each other from the beginning. She came into Guyana, I think, in 74, and I came in 75, so we were little young kids in those days. When I came, I was 22. You were a little younger. You were younger, yeah. So, she was, her family, in fact, was the Pioneer for Africa service out of Nairobi, and things started there, and then later on Sister Vedanti went, but it was like the light, they call it the dark continent, right, Africa, but so the light comes up there suddenly in that part of the world. Was it in Zambia or was in Zambia where things started in Africa? And then of course later on she moved to base out of Nairobi, and from there, she's constantly travelling around, a little bit like, I think what we have in common here, we travel a lot, right? Last year I was 2 trips per month, something, outside of Brazil. But especially I came to know in what's called the RC group, the Regional Coordinators group, because she helped Sister Vedanti coordinate the centres in Africa. And so there we have been working on projects together for the benefit of the Yagya. And I've always noticed that she's extremely stable, very stable, very like she's sitting here now with a smiling face. She looks like a deity, right? That's my image of her, is a smiling deity. So, and that's, in fact, she's always very royal and very, the way that she talks and the way she expresses herself is quite an inspiration, The image of what we should become, she is. So great.
Okay.
I love to be on that RC group because of people like her.
Okay, good. So there's many ways of defining the Yagya. Perhaps you all have your own definition, but in one sense we definitely call it and have been seeing it as the flame. So in short, but with feeling, tell me what it was. What was the match that lit the flame for you, and whether it was just one match or it required a whole box of matches? Ken, start from your end.
Okay, now we're going reverse. I think the very first moment that I came to the centre, because I was with some friends in London, and I noticed they were getting up early one morning. Where are you going this time of day? And they said, we're going to a Raj Yoga centre. And because I had been studying Raj Yoga of Patanjali, I thought, oh, Raj Yoga, can I come? So my very first moment in the centre was at 6 o'clock in the morning. For Murli. And as I went to the door, there was a sign on the door that said, you have been here 5,000 years ago. I think they removed that sign.
Yes. By the time I got there, it was
after a little
gone.
while. But I thought it was the most incredible thing I've ever heard, because I had the experience that this scene was repeating. So I'm reading a sign saying, this scene is repeating, you know. I said, wow. So, and the vibration, really. And I didn't do the course. Sister Sudesh probably didn't know what to do with me. And there were just a few anyway, so I went and sat in the muli. And from the very first day, I started to pick it up. Everything was very familiar for me. And I never did the course, actually, until now. So it's very, I think the whole vibration just touched me. It's like, yes, I've arrived. Instant recognition.
Instant recognition. Wow.
And since then, never one doubt, not for one moment.
Wow. Beautiful. Miraban.
For me, it was just one matchstick. You know, I just like they say, love with one sight, first sight.
First sight, yeah.
So I met Dadi Chandramani, Dadi's Laukik sister, elder sister. I don't know her. She doesn't know me. I don't know anything about Drishti. No
How
course.
old were you?
19 plus. Just finished my BSc examination. So my father took me, and she was in her bedroom. They took me right away into her bedroom, and she did not say anything. She just looked into my eyes. I looked into her eyes. That's it.
Lost.
Finish. Immediately the thought was that, you know, I belong to that place, and I just want to become like her.
Wow.
I don't know who is she, what she does, nothing. And the next thought I told my father, I want to stay with her here. So my father was very happy because he wanted me to come there for 6 months. He was doing tapasya maybe. So I stayed there, and I'm staying there since 46 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Not even a single thought of turning back.
Beautiful.
So taking, you know, beyond with a glance.
Wow.
What we call jhatku, die with one stroke.
It's interesting how in the early days the Yagya's foundation was this faith. And I remember the first time I saw a book, if you remember the early days, pictorial exhibition book, which came into my Laukik home when I was just 10.
The illustrations?
Yes, no,
Yeah,
not the
no,
illustrations, the earlier one.
Okay.
It was with the tracing paper type. You might
yes,
not
yes,
have
yes.
seen that.
No, I do remember
Hindi.
it. Yes.
It was in
It was
English,
Hindi.
yeah. Anyway, that came in our house, and I was quite inquisitive because it was very colorful. And I was just 10 that time. That time the Brahma Kumaris did not come to Africa or nowhere out of Africa. But I came back from school and I was just so inquisitive. I was going through the pages and I got stuck when I saw Brahma Baba's picture. When I saw Brahma Baba's picture, and my mom just walked in the room and she says, "What are you doing? You're going to spoil it," because she thinks it's a holy book. So I said, "But Mom, I know this person."
Wow.
And she says, "No, you can't know him because he's God." And I said, "No, but I know him very, very well. I know him." And she took the book away and put it up there somewhere, like a Holy Bible, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was the first time I saw something from the Yagya, and that was Brahma Baba, the book and Brahma Baba. And I knew that I was connected to this soul. I don't know how. And I was only 10 years old. And much, much later, Ramesh Bhai and Usha Bin came to Lusaka. I was born in Zambia, so my Laukik birth was there. My Alaukik birth was also there. And it was interesting, in those days, they only spoke Hindi and Gujarati, and I couldn't understand that much, very little. And so there was nobody to give us any understanding. They were only there for 4 days. So as Brother Ken mentioned, I've never taken the course. What I liked was my parents were running the classes there, and so I used to go for early morning because I wasn't an early morning bird anyway. And so over the weekends I used to go and sit there. My meditation was with nature because I loved the early morning hours. And this is how I came to Madhuban in few months' time, and I met Bap Dada, and that was it. I finished my college and I decided to go full-time. I was the first Kumari from Africa, and so Dadiji was very reluctant. I came to India for my training. I was trained under Nirmal Shanta Dadi, Brahma Baba's Lokik daughter. And I will have to be very honest, I found a real cultural shock in India. But I never felt cultural shock.
Okay.
It was very difficult for me. And in spite of that, I never felt I wanted to reverse, so I wanted to go back home. It's been full time in the center, 37 years. But otherwise with Baba 40 years, and I've never ever looked back. But that was the spark.
Beautiful.
Brahma Baba.
So instant. Mirabel, I think you knew Brahma Baba, no? Can you maybe tell us about the meeting with him?
Only once.
Yeah.
I was very, very fortunate. I came to knowledge in, I think, first end of April something, end of May something, and June, in 15-20 days.
What year was this?
1968.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity to come. In fact, I did not want to come. My father was coming, and so he really wanted me to follow him. So I just came to please him. But I did not know much about Brahma Baba or, because I also did not take course like all of them. So just coming and living in the center, taking course by teaching others. So first time when we were coming in the train, we have to travel 3 days and 3 nights from Bangalore to Mount Abu during those days. Changed train 3 times. But there was some kind of happiness inside, where I am going, even though there was not that much of recognition. So that those days when we arrive in Mount Abu, we have to take a public bus, government normal bus, and they leave us in the bus stand. And they will bring a small porter, like he will bring the luggage, and we have to walk all the way. So what happened was that we were walking down. We will come from the back door during those days. So Brahma Baba was standing on the dome. My father actually wanted to really see God coming into the body of Brahma Baba. He wanted to really see. So he was the one who recognized Brahma Baba there, from the distance. We couldn't see him. And he couldn't wait to want to go and meet him, but he was there, up there, and we were here, and he has to walk through, So anyway, those days we have to go and take shower and get ready, and we were given the chance to meet Baba, myself, my Lokik brother, younger brother, and my father. 3 of us, we went together. But in fact, actually, my father went first. So as soon as the door was open, he just screamed, Baba, and he just, with one feet, he went and hugged Baba. Baba was sitting on a small, like a simple cot. During those days, where now we leave the shoes in Baba's room, that used to be the place Baba would be sitting. He was almost pushing Baba. He went with that force. He couldn't see the body of Brahma. He saw only the light. And that's what he wanted to see. He went and embraced. And Baba knew what he was seeing. So he took him in his lap. And when he came back, he was a bit shy. Oh, I am in the lab. How I came here? But we were watching. We couldn't see anything, myself and my brother. But anyway, Baba made him to sit in the front, and 3 of us, we met. But my first feeling, but only thing regret is, there was nobody to translate during those days. What Baba was saying, few English words, but simple Hindi and English mix. But I could understand from vibrations. But the first feeling I had when I saw Baba was like, I was always with him. I just went for a holiday, just like a 2 weeks holiday, and I have come back. it was just like a continuation of being with him. It was not like a first time meeting or anything like that. And so it was very interesting. My father wanted to ask Baba that she should have a locking job and stay in the center, not without a job. So Baba gave permission. So at that time, I did not say anything. So we had a wonderful meeting with Baba. We stayed for 7 days, and we were 3 Kumaris. Baba had given us permission. You can come to me anytime. Madhuban was empty, not many people during that time. Very few souls. Manohar Dadi was there, I remember, and very few souls. So we were like small kids. We will go wherever Baba would go. Go to the kitchen, go to the garden, go to here. So we were moving around Baba like everywhere. Kids. So it was like being there a long time, you know, very familiar.
So you had the privilege of meeting Baba, and for all the rest of us, our good fortune in knowing the original keepers of the Yagya in terms of the seniors, some of whom have been mentioned already. Ken, who impacted you in your early days? One, of course, is Baba, and if you want to share that meeting, you're welcome. But in terms of, you know, the seniors, you had Dadiji, you had Didiji, and so many others, and brothers too. You had
well, if you remember, when I came into Gyan, Daddy Janki was in London, and she stayed there for my first years in Gyan, and so I didn't have contact with her until really after 1978, when she came to Australia. But Daddy G in those days was the head of the institution, the whole world. There wasn't international service as such. In fact, when I came, there weren't any centres that were like non-Indian tradition. There were none. So there were no mulis even in English. There were half a page mulis that Dada Nand Kishore would translate, and that was only infrequent.
And in his peculiar English.
And his very sort of old-fashioned English, yes. So, and so my connection with Daddy G and Didi, very much. And of course, it was very clear that they were very complementary in the way that they did things. Didi was like a powerhouse, you know. Even when she would conduct meditation, she would just look straight ahead, you know, not giving drishti like a roaming drishti sort of thing. It was like, and so, but she was also, she didn't give classes, you know. No. And in fact, in those days, there were no classes as such like this, you know, with microphones. We had just meetings and picnics, basically. No classes. I can't remember classes in those early days. And of course, there were any announcements about the program, right?
Other than Sheila.
Now we're going to have Daddy would have an inspiration. Let's have a picnic. Let's go up onto the rock. Let's go out into up to the mountain, and lots and lots of such incredible scenes. But it was Dadiji really and Didi, both of them. They were the centre of our attention. And I came into Gyan in August of 75, and in January of 76 I started the centre, like 4 months afterwards, because of different reasons, but I didn't realise it at the time, but it was the first centre that was not Indian
yeah.
in the world.
And how many did you bring to meet Baba?
Well, Baba said that I would, and of course when I went to Australia, back from England, I came by Madhuban. I was 3 months in Gyan, I met Baba. Like fast track. I was already practicing the principles before Gyan because of Raj Yoga. It's the same actually. Yama and Yama, same ones. But so Baba said you were going to find a bouquet of souls, and I didn't, first of all, know what a bouquet of souls was. And I said, okay, yeah. But it actually turned out like that, because as soon as I got to Australia, the centre closed down after 2 weeks. There were no students and the sisters had to go. So I was there practically alone, and the feeling was that we have to do something. I have to create a family, a spiritual family, so that at least we can sustain ourselves. So that was the motivation. And so after 1 year of service, when I came back here, I had 16 people with me, 16 Brahmins from Sydney. And then we went back and we started the other centres there. But it was Daddy and Didi who actually asked me to go to Brazil. They called me. And there was a meeting also in Baba's room with Baba. Like Baba, imagine Baba came in Baba's room in those days was half of the size that it is now, if you remember, right? Because the back part was the fruit department, yeah? It was like a little kitchen. So the Baba's room now is like very huge. But otherwise it was very small. So when I was asked to go to Brazil by Daddy and Didi, we would meet Baba every couple of days. He would come. And so he went up, Baba, you want me to go to South America, is that right? And Baba said, yes. Like any special instructions. And so Genti always remembers that meeting was really special, like blessings from Baba. So it was like it was Daddy, Didi and Baba, really. And it was very difficult to sort of separate them out, actually. It was all part of the same feeling of family, yes.
Yeah. You know, Baba says, don't forget the days of your childhood, and of course, he would have been saying that to those who were the original creators of the Yagya. But I think that we all become creators of the Yagya in our own places, that every Brahmin has to go through all of the same experiences. And so I wonder, because you've been to many new countries, do you see how this works, that the beginning of the Yagya, it's a little bit, sometimes I think it's a little bit like the Olympus flame, that it's taken from Mount Olympus and then it's taken to all these different places. It's from the same flame. And so maybe you would like to talk about how every center is a beginning of the Yagya.
Yeah. Every time I go to a new place, I go back to my first early days of service in Lusaka. And the first day I saw was Ushabin and Ramesh Bhai from Mumbai. And then on the fourth day I saw was Dadi Janki. And not even knowing, I went with them for service. Now I understand it was service. But I went with them for a trip out of Lusaka, and that was my first service. And it was so interesting. Although I didn't know what it was, there's a lot of happiness. And it was a very organized trip. We had cars, we had everything. But now when we go in other parts of Africa or other parts of the world, sometimes we don't even know anyone there. But that enthusiasm is still there.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yes.
And that spark then creates the flame, and that's the enthusiasm. In spite of you don't know where you're going to land up, and you don't know where you're going to start from. I remember the first time we were opening a center in a Portuguese country was Mozambique. We were 3 sisters. We rented an apartment, and one of our friends just put it in the newspaper that there's going to be a talk on Armando Trivani, that's the address, 10th floor, and we didn't even have extra chairs. We only had 3 chairs in that house. And the talk was starting at 6. I bought some chairs at 5:30, cleaning up and setting. I had no idea who's going to translate my talk from English to Portuguese. But that enthusiasm was still there. And it was interesting, the whole room was full, over 50. And I just asked in the public, I said, look, I only speak English. Is there anybody who can help us to translate? And one lady just came because that was her work. And it started. So there's no barrier or limitations in service in a new country. That spark is already there. And I always remember one time Baba gave a message, before my children go there for service, I'm already there.
Mm-hmm.
So I always remember that, and that enthusiasm stays in spite of all the situations.
So when you see that enthusiasm again of new students, of first-timers, etc., what's the feeling, Miraben?
I think it is just, first of all, when we go anywhere, that the feeling is that Baba is sending you there and he's taking you there, because as Pratibha Ben said, we don't know with whom we are going to stay and what we are going to do, who is organizing the program. A little bit like early days, but not so much. Like once Dadi Gulzar was sharing her experience that she was asked to go to Lucknow, and she just went, and when she got down in the station, she has to ask the station master, when people come here, where do they stay? And they took her to a guest house. And in the guest house, of course, 10 people stay and then they have to share. And then after going there, they don't know who is organizing the program. So it was something similar when we went to the new countries. My experience is I have never stayed with householders. Because since in India for 8 years, I stayed in the center with 7 to 8 sisters. Now here I'm alone, and then going to a new place, and then you have to stay in a hotel or in some householders.
But their enthusiasm, I'm curious about the enthusiasm of the new people.
So like when after all that, when souls begin to come and begin to accept Baba, it is really amazing feeling, like how Baba is doing his work, not taking the credit, because I don't have anything, anything I'm doing, I cannot take any credit. So seeing their growth, my enthusiasm increases even more. So they themselves come forward to help you. They themselves come forward to create more programs. So it is like a new baby born, like whole family becomes happy. So I used to feel like that, even if one soul, few souls come, I used to pay a lot of attention to sustain them, not expecting many have to come. Because in many places, sometimes only one person in the morning class, but I used to see that soul as representing many thousands of souls too. Because seeing their enthusiasm for listening to Baba's knowledge actually allowed me to create some newness in myself, so that not only my words will inspire them, but because they will observe you more than what you are talking. So it was, their enthusiasm actually brought more enthusiasm into myself.
Ken, we know where the Yagya began. We have the whole history. We know how we're moving, but where are we headed? Again, with a Yagya, there is a beginning and there ultimately has to be a completion. Are we there yet?
No.
No. Okay.
Short answer. But Baba has guaranteed that what was there in the beginning will be there in the end. So we start to see signs of that. And it seems to me that one of the things that Baba often mentions is Muli about the final results, and you get this image of, some notice board somewhere with the, this one's first, this one's second, this one's third, like that. And Baba says there'll be a lot of surprises, right? So people that you thought, wow, I thought they were so elevated, and look where they are. Or I didn't give any attention to this particular individual, and look how high he is in the final result. It seems to me that the Yagya, first of all, doesn't change. The flame is as constant as Baba is. It's like the confluence age in a sense. The confluence age is always there. Whether we are aware of it or not, confluence age is all the time. So in a way, the flame of the Yagya is always burning. We're more or less aware of it according to our stage and our effort. And we have to bring that into our lives in a sense. So what can go into the Yagya is only pure things. And what can't go into the Yagya are impure things, even though people try. You know, Baba says in the Mulis that the devils try to disturb the Yagya, right? That's Baba's language. So it seems to me that we are moving towards a time where whatever feelings or practices are not pure of anyone, it doesn't matter how high in the institution they are, or in terms of the hierarchy or whatever, that's one thing. It does not represent the final result, the present hierarchy. Could be. But whatever's not pure and not something that Baba says, yes, this is perfectly correct and right in terms of our feelings and practices, that cannot sustain itself in the Yagya, in the sacrificial fire. So all of us are having to check ourselves. So I feel that there's going to be moments of truth, not one moment of truth, several moments of truth where we have to step up to the mark and check how pure are my feelings and my practices, and how much Baba would approve of them, you know. Because anything outside of that can't stay. It can't remain. It can't be sustained. So it's good that anything that happens is a purification, in a sense. So I'm thinking that as we get towards a final moment, all of this sort of stuff, this shaking will go on. And it's just the shaking to get rid of the impure feelings and practices. So do I make myself clear?
Mm-hmm. So, Prativa Ben, this was from a Bhog message actually that Sister Mohini brought back. And she was saying that the flame of the Yagya is ignited in each one, but it wants to jump, it wants to go higher, it wants to be full. So how do we become that full flame?
What I feel is we've got these 4 subjects of knowledge and service and qualities and, of course, tapasya. But when there is natural remembrance which would grow within us, there's a lot of natural qualities of service. We love doing service. But if that transforms and balances the remembrance, which is not there yet, then the flame would definitely jump up. And that's what is missing. I remember every year in Nairobi, we for the Nivasis organize a program. And because we are lucky, Sister Vedanti is a trans medium, she brings lovely messages for herself and the progress of people around her. And Baba said that a lot of my children do remember me. but the quality is not there. And last year, that was not 2014 but 2013, from 1st January till 31st, we focus, the Nivasis focus a lot on Drishti meditation. In the Amritvela also, Drishti meditation, at least when somebody is conducting, we are quite alert. And in the evening meditation also, class definitely. But even in traffic control in between every hour, we were very focused sort of. And we felt that that was a very special gift for the year last year, and we've continued that in the center. In other words, Baba did say that my children have recognized me, but the quality of remembrance is not up to date still. And I feel when that comes in me, the flame will pop up.
Maybe using that as a jump for the next question, that everybody can belong to the Yagya, perhaps, but you have supporters of the Yagya, you have keepers of the Yagya, and you have protectors of the Yagya. Maybe you could make a distinction?
I think, Shiv Baba, it's called Rudra Jnana Yagya. So Shiv Baba created the Yagya, and he made Brahmins, the mouth-born progeny of Brahma, as the protectors of the Yagya. Because we are the ones who have to protect that flame. And as Ratan Mohini Dadi mentioned very clearly last night, one of the methods to protect the Yagya is to follow the rules, the maryadas, the disciplines that Baba has laid down for us. So we protect ourselves.
Okay.
So through that self-protection, we become
Beautiful.
the protectors of the Yagya.
Yes.
And one thing I think it should be clear in our mind, Yagya is not a physical place. This is the image people get. We are the Yagya. Each one of us, wherever we are the living Yagya. So the vibrations, the practical life that we lead allows us to become the protectors, creating that atmosphere, keeping that atmosphere, so which is very important. And of course, the sustainers of the Yagya is when I take the initiative to use my body, mind and wealth, thought, words and actions to sacrifice into the Yagya. Because Baba has lit the Yagya, Brahma Baba sacrificed everything. But now I have to sustain that flame, so I take the initiative to sacrifice what belongs to me. So that sustains the Yagya. And Yagya then in return sustains me. So it is then we automatically become the keepers of the Yagya. Not only taking sustenance from the Yagya, but we are also sustaining the Yagya through our every breath, thought, words, actions, whatever we have in a worthwhile way.
Great. Let me just put this, because this is a specific question I want for you, but related to that, and I'll give it back to Pratibha, because sometimes it's a question for people that when they hear the Yagya, give it to the Yagya, very specifically it's meant Madhuban, or sometimes it's referred to as the big Yagya, and our centers are the little Yagya. So could you maybe make that distinction for us?
Yeah. Of course, when I came to Baba, we understood Madhuban as the Yagya, definitely. But then even on the path of worshipping, they have one main one, they have little ones around also. And they call it the 108 Yagyas, So little ones are also there. So the main purpose of sacrificial fire, that's Yagya, is to purify. Purify the environment, purify things around. And so that's our aim, whether it's Madhuban, the Mahayagya, or whether it's our centers, or whether it's individual us Brahmins. And so a wise Yagya keeper would be that first they take care of their own flame, take care of the centers, because that's also the Yagya, and then contribute more to the Mahayagya.
Beautiful.
And so when we have that, then that's very successful.
Beautiful. Ken, we know and we accept that the Yagya is the core, but how can we be authentic as a public institution? He's written a book on this, actually.
How can we, pardon?
I say you've written the book on this.
Right. A book?
Well, in the sense of the manual.
Oh,
the
okay.
manual.
Yes, she's referring to, we've just published what are called the Yagya systems and standards of best practice, which deals with how we are set up from Madhaban through the RCs to the NCs and then the centre coordinators, and how that works, and how that strand is definitely the spiritual responsibility and let's say the service responsibility. And then the other strand of, how to live with the laws of our different countries. And because we internally we see ourselves as a family, externally the world will see us like any other institution. And therefore we have to do accounts and we have to have our permits to function from the firemen or from the local council, that we're meeting, gathering people together in a place. Some countries that's complicated to do. So there are liabilities, and in the world that we live in there's an increasing sort of risk of some sort of governments don't have money, so they want more taxes, and so the governments are more attentive to how we are operating as a civil organisation. For they don't see us as a spiritual organisation. We see ourselves as that. So there are responsibilities on both sides, and it's a big mistake, I think, to try to institutionalize the Yagya things, like instead of the spirit of what Baba's teaching, we make people follow things like, some sort of very, you've probably seen those people are very Srimat, very lawful. And so the spiritual aspect even is hidden because they're too lawful. So Baba would always say, the face of our work should be love. Behind that we have to be following the things. So we're following the systems of Baba. But on the other side we have to comply with local regulations in our places. So there also we have the opportunity to make sure that though we are doing these things because the local government requires it, or the federal government in our countries requires it, the income tax office requires certain things, but we should not institutionalize the feelings, never. We should, to just invent a word, we should yagyafy our institutional practices rather than institutionalize our yagya practices.
Great.
We have to make the things more yagya-like, because let's say you have a board meeting, right? And you have to decide on very sort of practical issues, with lawyers and accountants and this and that. But also you can do that in such a way that Baba says respect love, all of the virtues. In fact, the virtues that we practice specifically are put into place when we get together to meet. Meetings is the number one sign of how we are spiritually.
Beautiful. Just to finish with, these are direct words from Baba. And when we speak of the Yagya, we talk about the beginning, the sustenance, but we don't focus so much in terms of the completion. Whose job is completion? Do you know? Baba has given it very specifically to the foreigners. And this is a Murli from 1980. And he said, everyone's vision is especially on you foreigners, and you have to reveal the one from whom you receive this by becoming the practical form. Just as there was special sustenance at the start of the creation of the Yagya, so too you are also now being given special sustenance. Those who receive sustenance at the beginning have given the return of that sustenance in starting service. Now, what will all of you do? You will complete this service and glorify Baba's name by becoming complete and perfect. You foreigners, this is before double foreigners came into usage, you foreigners will have to fix a date for the final date. Everyone's now waiting for you. And when someone asks Baba when destruction will take place, he replies, ask the foreigners. The people of Bharat were given the responsibility of creation, and now you foreigners have to take this responsibility. In fact, just as the foreign lands are perishable and Bharat is imperishable, so too the people of Bharat carried out the task of creation, and now you foreigners have become the special instruments for the task of destruction. Children from Bharat carried out creation by sacrificing themselves in creating the Yagya. They started the Yagya with their sacrifice, and you now have to make the final sacrifice and finish the Yagya. Then there will be victory. Now make the final sacrifice very quickly, and when all of you come together with one thought and make the final sacrifice, it will be the end. So when will you reveal the date? And then Baba goes on to, somebody said, well, can we come to Madhaban one more time? This was in 1980. And so then Baba went on to say, make sure that your wireless is working well. The wireless you need here is that of being viceless. You will hear the sound calling you here on your wireless. And if you don't have your wireless switched on, the sound won't reach you. Only a viceless intellect will be able to catch this final direction. And if you do everything quickly, the end will come very quickly. So that's part of a Murli from 1980. And so do you feel we're closer now? Do you feel that approach of the completion? I don't like the idea of the end, but when it's complete, we won't need the Yagya anymore. So,
you know, this morning we all heard the blessings. Baba used two words, sadhan and sadhana. You know, spiritual endeavor and physical facilities. And I think this is very much connected with our stage of completion. As we continue to practice more and more spiritual endeavor, the matter external will surrender itself to us. So we need not to take support from the physical facilities, but make our spiritual endeavor our support. And this is what started, you know, in the beginning, the sacrifice, the one who came for establishment was based on sadhana, spiritual endeavor. They did not expect any physical comforts. So now Baba is pointing out to the foreigners, because in foreign countries there is a lot of physical comforts. So whilst having all the physical comforts, I need to make my life, the support is spiritual endeavor. So when we have the balance of sadhan and sadhana, that means the spiritual endeavor as the highlight in our life, we are able to sacrifice the final sacrifice into the yagya, which means that you are not dependent on anything external. So the only one support and one strength is Baba.
Beautiful.
So I think it is coming. Still we have to check ourselves individually to what extent I am depending on the external support, not necessarily material things, even subtle supports like name, fame, position, all these things that we are hungry for. So when we have total unlimited disinterest, that is when we are able to put the final sacrifice. So when all of us together have that attitude of unlimited disinterest, that's it.
Great. Pratibha Ben, final thoughts?
The first words came to my mind was balance of science and silence. Because science has given us so much of facility, even in Madhuban. I remember when I first came, they didn't even have a telephone here. No car, but no telephones.
No hot water.
Forget internets. But now each of us have about 3 or 4 phones. And we think when the network is down, we think the world is ended, It's, we're stuck, we can't do anything. But that's where we need the silence power and the thought power. So in spite of using all this facility, wherever we are, whether in Madhuban or in centers or wherever in the world, do I have my balance of silence and the thought power? And when we have that, I feel that it's going to help us towards completion. At the moment, we are very conscious of science, I think.
I think the revelation, really. And if Baba's saying that it has to come from the foreigners, we have to show that it is possible to live as a spiritual community in harmony. Because if you're on your own and you're okay, it's no big deal, as Baba says. But I believe that we have a lot of the ingredients necessary for us to really show the world that we can live together really in harmony. But that requires the sacrifice of our egos. That's the final sacrifice. And for one reason or the other, maybe Baba hopes that we outside of India can make that sacrifice before the people here can do it. And I think it's a healthy race, actually. But part of that, let me share from the heart, is we have to stop being so idealistic. We talk as if we're doing something. We're actually not, We talk about as if these things are extremely easy, and we know they're not easy. If we all just spoke, even from the stage here, let's say, if we just spoke what we actually do and not what we'd like to do or we'd like others to do, maybe we'd come to a common ground more quickly. And to understand and to live on that common ground is the essence of a community, right? A spiritual community. Showing the world what it is, because this is the basis of the divine world. And so we have to start living together. Of course, we're not deities yet, but we have to start living together with subtlety and with less words and with less, perhaps less actions and more substance. and less blah, blah, blah.
Can I add one
Sure,
thing?
of course.
Actually, what is happening is that, instead of sharing the authentic, original knowledge as Baba has taught us to other souls, we have many what we call alternative knowledge, stress management, all kinds of things. Like they have alternative medicines. So it is not actually getting into the heart of the souls. So I feel that, we need to become a little bit fearless to reveal the original knowledge as it is. Souls are seeking for truth, but we are hiding the truth because of fear, because of hesitation. But when that truth, that authentic knowledge is shared, of course in a yukti-yukt way, then those souls are touched. Then whether they are Buddhist or Islam or Jewish, whoever it is, the souls will get touched. Then they will say, my Baba has come. But we are the ones who are hiding the truth out of fear. So we have to open up and reveal the authentic, original knowledge instead of beating around the bush. Giving all kinds of courses to attract people, but not it is touching.
Okay, so we will end on that note. Thank you ever so much. That was terrific. What I would like you to do for the last 10 minutes is a meditation commentary. Maybe we can start with Pratibha and connecting with the flame. And sorry, no. And then Miraben, and then Ken, and then go around again if needs be. But we have a little less than 10 minutes, so let's everybody go into that space with them.
Thank you, Sister Wadi, for
Pleasure.
this lovely
Pleasure.
questions.
Can we change the lights?
I just sit up straight. And step within. In that quiet space. And I connect with my inner self. The silence within me helps me to connect with my Baba. And that spark then helps me to create a flame. The flame of love. tranquility, of strength.
As this flame of love for one is ignited in my heart, this fire of love intensifies the fire of yoga, when I, the soul, I am lost in the love of one Baba, I also have deep feelings in my heart for the Yagya. First, I take the initiative to sacrifice my own weaknesses, my own old sanskaras, old nature, so I am totally transformed. My transformation inspires the transformation of souls around me. They also begin to sacrifice their weaknesses, their defects, and together we ignite the flame, and this fire, the heat, automatically transforms even the elements of matter.
Mentally and spiritually, I'm in front of Bapdada, the subtle level, and the purity that's in the soul just dances in the purity that Baba's radiating. Baba's vision towards the soul is able to penetrate all of the things that cover that purity. So there's a deep connection at that level. My thinking becomes very much less. And I just become, with Baba's help, I become the embodiment of purity. I am the flame. Baba's purity is the flame, and my purity is in that flame also. So I just remain radiating purity. No thoughts.
Om Shanti.